Coming up, the White House confirms North Korea has sold weapons to the Russian military company Wagner Group. It says the weapons included infantry rockets and missiles. The notorious Wagner Group has been used in numerous missions around the world by the Russian government, including in Ukraine, as off-the-books special forces. South Korea's rival parties reach a compromise on next year's budget. The bill with tax cut amendments is expected to be passed at the National Assembly in the coming hours. We have a breakdown of the budget's components. Plus, yet again, temperatures in Seoul dropped to their lowest point so far for this winter season. Jeju is seeing heavy snow pounding the island, prompting airlines to cancel numerous flights. Good morning. Welcome to New Day at Arirang. We begin this morning as the U.S. confirms that North Korea delivered weapons to Russia's paramilitary Wagner Group. The White House condemned the arms shipment to the private military company and said it plans to raise the issue with the UN Security Council. Our Shin Se-byuk leads us off this morning.
The White House on Thursday said North Korea has sold weapons to a private Russian military company, the Wagner Group. Often called Russian President Vladimir Putin's off-the-books troops, the mercenary group has been a key player in the ongoing conflict in Ukraine. The news, first reported by Reuters, was confirmed by U.S. National Security Council spokesperson John Kirby.
Today, we can confirm that North Korea has completed an initial arms delivery to Wagner, which paid for that equipment. Last month, North Korea delivered infantry rockets and missiles into Russia for use by Wagner.
The move apparently indicates that the Wagner Group is expanding its role in the war. Kirby said the amount delivered will not change the battlefield dynamics, but added more military equipment is expected. Meanwhile, Wagner Group leader Yevgeny Prigozhin denied the assertion as gossip and speculation. The White House also hinted at its future moves regarding the issue.
We're going to raise these violations with the Security Council alongside of our allies and partners.
It also condemned Pyongyang for its action and called for it to immediately cease these deliveries. This only came a day after the Biden administration announced new sanctions on technology exports to the Wagner Group. This also followed Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky's visit to Washington on Wednesday. During his speech to Congress, Zelensky thanked Washington for its military assistance and said more was needed to fend off Russian advances. Shin Se-byuk, Arirang News.
Rival parties finally reached an agreement over the 2023 budget. The Yoon administration's first budget plan is to be passed on Friday. Our Kim Bo-kyung fills us in.
After a long tug-of-war, the ruling People Power Party and the main opposition Democratic Party of Korea on Thursday finally reached an agreement for next year's budget. Since passing the legal deadline of December 2nd, both parties have been at a weeks-long impasse, but the agreement came a day after National Assembly Speaker Kim Jin-pyo said he would hold a plenary session on Friday to pass the budget bill regardless. Under the agreement, the parties decided to cut 4.6 trillion won, or around $3.6 billion from the government's proposed budget of 639 trillion won, or around $500 billion. As for other issues the parties have been at odds over, the corporate tax rate will be lowered by 1 percentage point for each of the 4 tax brackets, bringing the highest corporate tax rate from 25% to 24%. The proposed budget will be cut in half for the Interior Ministry's new bureau, tasked with overseeing the National Police Agency, and for the new unit at the Justice Ministry tasked with vetting government personnel.
As the main opposition party, it was with heavy heart and with many apologies that we could not pass the budget within the legal deadline, regular assembly session, or even the deadline set by the Speaker. With the thought that we shouldn't be causing problems for the people and for the Itaewon parliamentary probe to properly be conducted, we were able to reach an agreement.
We are the minor but ruling party, so we tried our best to secure a budget that reflects the government's policies or philosophy. While the DP is the opposition but major party, so we had difficulty compromising. It is a relief how we could finally reach an agreement to have it passed during the plenary session.
As for other key issues, rival parties agreed to delay imposing a new capital gains tax for 2 years. Originally, all investors were to pay a 20% tax on annual capital gains exceeding 50 million won, or roughly $39,000, and those with 300 million won in gains, a rate of 25% starting next year. For the stock transaction tax, it will be slowly lowered to 0.15% in 2025 from the current 0.23%. The bill is due to be passed in Friday's plenary session at 6 p.m. And to deal with other pending bills, another session will be held on December 28th. 김보경, Arirang News.
With the South Korean housing market in decline recently, some homeowners could soon be underwater on their mortgages. The Bank of Korea says if the decline in home prices reaches 20%, almost 5% of those with mortgages would find their home is worth less than what they borrowed on it. Our Ji-young has the details.
As house prices continue to fall in South Korea, nearly 5% of people who've taken out a mortgage could find themselves underwater. Data released by the Bank of Korea on Thursday showed that 4.9% of people will have a home worth less than what they borrowed on it if prices fall 20% from where they were at the end of June. A BOK official said that while the market price of houses has increased by around 38% since the start of the pandemic as of June, it's fallen roughly 10% from the peak as of November. But he added that households and financial institutions are able to bear the current situation because the decline has been more gradual than steep.
There could be stronger downward pressure on the housing market going forward due to the stricter monetary tightening policy of the U.S. Federal Reserve. We will keep an eye on the market as South Korea's financial situation is closely linked with the housing market.
The decline in home prices also has implications for landlords who lease their homes under Korea's unique system of jeonse, where the tenant gives the landlord a huge lump sum deposit instead of paying monthly rent. With the going rate for these leases having gone down too, some landlords may not be able to return the deposits to their tenants when they leave. These deposits are usually worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, and landlords often repay them using the money brought in by the next tenant. The BOK says if the going rate for these leases falls by 10% or so, then around 11% of landlords, even if they do have a new tenant, will have to either borrow money or sell their assets to pay back the old one. Ji-young, Arirang News.
Health authorities could soon change the indoor mask mandate from mandatory to recommended if certain criteria are met. This follows a meeting between the ruling bloc and the government. The current COVID-19 variants being less likely to cause severe illness and delayed language development among toddlers due to mask wearing are cited as reasons to implement the change. Still, mask wearing will be required in high-risk facilities such as hospitals and pharmacies. The PPP's chief policymaker reportedly asked the government to consider shortening the self-isolation period from 7 days to 3. People in South Korea woke up to the coldest day yet this winter on Friday morning, with Seoul's temperature at one point plunging to -14 degrees Celsius. To make matters worse, the wind made it feel as though it was -22 degrees. Most of the country is under a weather advisory at the moment, whether that be a cold wave warning or a heavy snow warning. Snow in particular has been causing damage in parts of Jeollanam-do province, with car accidents and bridge closed due to heavy snow. In the southernmost part of the country, Jeju Island, flights have been grounded due to snow, with the island expected to receive a total of 50 centimeters of snow until Saturday. Koreans will see the return of officially sponsored events for watching the year's first sunrise on the East Coast. A welcome change, as many of them were canceled due to the pandemic. Our Ian-jin provides a glimpse of what to expect.
2023 will be the third new year welcomed in since the first outbreak of COVID-19 in South Korea. With the much eased virus prevention measures, many events have been returning to normal. But after the recent Itaewon crowd crush disaster, extra caution is being taken with strengthened safety measures. The traditional sunrise watching spot in Ulsan City, gov't, popular for being the very first place on the mainland to see the sunrise, will be giving out the New Year signature rice cake soup, tteokguk. At Cheongdongjin Beach in Gangneung City, events have been prepared to ring in the new year, including fireworks and a countdown. and crowds are expected for the bell ringing at Yongdusan Park in Busan City. Coastal spots or mountaintops have been popular spots as people gather to get the first glimpse of the year's first sunrise. Additional safety measures are being taken at these locations. The Coast Guard will be posted at beaches and waterfronts. Hiking trails may be restricted depending on weather conditions, and traffic control measures will be taken in the city centers. Crowds are expected to gather in excitement for a more normal ringing in of the new year, and caution is being taken so that all celebrations are held safely. 이은진, Arirang News.
The Nutcracker has been one of the most loved Christmas fixtures since its premiere more than a century ago. Every year, ballet companies breathe new life into the production, adding their own flair. Our Kim Hyun-sung provides a sneak peek.
A winter dreamland fantasy unfolding at Christmas. It's the Nutcracker, a classic of the end-of-the-year season. This performance is by the Universal Ballet, a Korean ballet company with 4 decades of history.
We are staging the Mariinsky version of the Nutcracker, which I think is the most animated and beautiful version. When you see the waltz of the snowflake or the waltz of the flowers, you can witness the epitome of authentic ballet.
Every year, ballet companies around the world breathe a new life to the Nutcracker. The Universal Ballet is staging a version that's close to the original that premiered in St. Petersburg Mariinsky Theater 130 years ago. With music by Tchaikovsky, the ballet has become a long-running Christmas fixture since, and dozens of ballet variations have stemmed from it. But the story of the Nutcracker is mostly the same for every performance. A girl gets a Nutcracker doll from her godfather during a Christmas Eve party. She falls asleep with the doll in her arms and is whisked away into a magical winter wonderland, full with snowflakes and sweets. The Universal Ballet's Nutcracker displays this Christmas magic through scintillating stage props and extravagant costumes.
The Nutcracker is a ballet that everyone can enjoy, no matter your age or gender. Also, it's a perfect performance for families because you can really feel the Christmas spirit, and it's a piece that teaches children about hopes, dreams, and love.
As it had for more than a century, the Nutcracker is once again ready to bring toys and sweets to life with some Christmas magic. Kim Hyun-sung, Arirang News.
Official Development Assistance, or ODA, is government aid that promotes and specifically targets the economic development and welfare of developing countries. Currently, South Korea is the 16th biggest provider of ODA after, in 1996, becoming the world's first country to become a provider from a receiver. But the new Yoon Suk-yeol administration says it's not enough. Since he took office, President Yoon has been stressing the need to expand South Korea's ODA system and recently shared his vision to make the country the 10th largest provider of ODA in order to become a pivotal state on the world stage. So we wanted to take this opportunity to bring in someone who's on the front lines of the country's ODA system, Korea International Cooperation Agency's volunteer and a former reporter at Arirang News. Kim Sung-min connects with us from Bolivia. Good morning, or should I say good evening to you in South America.
Good morning to you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I mean, we all miss you here. So first, can you give us examples of what you do and what it is about the work that made you want to ditch us all at Arirang TV and move to Bolivia?
Right. Currently, I'm in Bolivia, and as a COICAS volunteer, I'm working for World Vision, because once you join the program, you're sent to different local organizations that are in need of help, like schools, hospitals, and city halls. And in my case, it was an NGO, World Vision. And here I do social media and communication work based on my field of expertise of reporting. And in fact, you'll see a lot of people with different expertise like cooking, teaching Korean language, and computers, which is very interestingly different from what many people would expect when they think of overseas volunteering. So when it comes to abroad volunteer programs, they're not just about general or physically demanding work like digging water wells, But in fact, there's a lot more that you can do using your own skills and your own experience to really join the efforts put by the government. Apart from my daily work, I'm also working on my own project, which is an opportunity given to all KOICA volunteers where they could pitch their own project ideas within the budget of around $20,000. And some people use this opportunity to improve facilities at schools, and some people would buy equipment, for example, like computers. And in my case, I was very interested in the issue of infant mortality here. So I decided to use my experience as a reporter to film a documentary to bring more attention to the issue. So recently I've been running around to sign contracts with agencies, and it's been very exciting.
Right. Sounds very exciting, like you said, but what do you make of South Korean government's stance on expanding ODA? In your eyes, realistically speaking, is there a lot of room for expansion?
Well, for my part, when I heard that news, it was I really welcomed the news because it means more bigger projects could come. Through my first-hand experience here as a volunteer working individually, I get to know and learn about many problems here in Bolivia. And some problems are small enough that individual volunteers are able to take care of and make improvements in a relatively short span of time. But we do know that there are also other way bigger issues that have to be handled in much a bigger scale over the course of a longer period of time. So, for example, lack of infrastructures like roads and problems in industries like agricultural sector, where the support has to come in form of a much bigger project. So I believe that the expansion of ODA could definitely open new doors to provide support in such manner. And it's also an exciting news for someone who's already in the field and has observed that once we put right actions, we could actually bring some positive changes.
Right, now, but that doesn't come without the hardships, right? What are some hardships you've encountered while being a KOICA volunteer overseas, besides, of course, missing the people you love?
I mean, where do I begin? I mean, helping others, as you would know already, is hard. But it's even harder, especially when you have to do it in a country halfway across the world from your home. And for me, I got food poisoning, salmonella, like 3 times within the past 6 months, and I never had it before. So these kind of things will happen because the environment is so different that you could easily become very vulnerable, both physically and mentally. So it's very important for you to take care of yourself well. And this is not just for your own sake, but for to successfully finish your volunteering work as you have planned. And another part is that naturally, if you join as a KOICA volunteer, you have a very high chance to be sent to a country with a completely different culture from Korea. And in many cases, the local people will not be quite familiar with different cultures, and they might not be as open, meaning that you'll have to withstand sometimes all that curious and even hostile looks towards you.
Right. It must be tough. And of course, you're all the way across the globe. Well, thank you so much for joining us this morning, and I hope you come back safely soon.
Thank you.
For a look at the news from around the world, we now turn to our Lee Seung-jae standing by at the Arirang newsroom. Good morning.
Good morning to you.
Now let's start off over in the U.S. where we're seeing a lot of frustrated Americans whose Christmas travel plans are up in the air because of the nationwide winter storms.
That's right, Doyen. A massive winter storm crossing most parts of the United States is causing treacherous conditions on roads, widespread flight delays, and drastic temperature drops. Now, in what would be a busy holiday travel week, airlines across the country canceled more than 2,000 flights on Thursday, with more than 1,000 being preemptively canceled for Friday. Now, almost half the U.S. population are in areas under wind chill alerts. Winds have even dropped temperatures to minus 56 degrees Celsius in parts of Montana and Wyoming, with even central Florida under a freeze watch. President Joe Biden urged Americans to stay off the roads and to heed local warnings, while a number of cities and states have declared a state of emergency. Now, FTX founder Sam Bankman-Fried was released on a $250 million bond package while he awaits trial on fraud charges related to the collapse of the FTX crypto exchange. Now, prosecutors say that the bail package would require Bankman-Fried to give up his passport and remain confined to his parents' home in Palo Alto, California. Now, his parents, who are both Stanford Law School professors, co-signed the bond and posted the equity in their home as assurance for their son's return to court. Nicholas Roos, one of the prosecutors involved with the case, called the package the largest ever pretrial bond. Now, according to the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the average life expectancy for Americans fell to a 25-year low in 2021 at just 76.4 years old. Now, the figure is down over 2 years from 2019 when it was 78.8 years. Officials cite the COVID-19 pandemic and a growing number of drug overdoses. Last year, COVID-19 was the third leading cause of death in the U.S. behind heart disease and cancer, with COVID-19 accounting for 1 in 8 deaths. Drug overdose deaths hit record levels in 2021 as nearly 107,000 people died from overdosing, marking a 14% increase on year and a 50% increase over the past 2 years. Now, on a brighter note, Christmas is just around the corner, and countries around the world are showcasing their unique decorations on Christmas trees. And in northern Lebanon, a Christmas tree made of donated recycled materials was lit up to spread Christmas joy and, not to mention, raise awareness about the environment. Now, the tree is made from 110,000 donated plastic green bottles and another 2,000 white bottles. Organizers say the tree took a month to create and is part of the Christmas by the Lake exhibition.
Good morning. The numbing temperatures are no joke today. Hypothermia or frostbite could happen if you don't take precautions. And the wind chill can make it feel like it is as low as below minus 20 degrees here in Seoul. And the cold is hitting even harder in mountainous areas. Worsening the situation is snow in many western parts of the country, with heavy snow alerts issued. Jeollado provinces will be seeing more than 20 centimeters of snowfall into tomorrow morning. Mountainous parts of Jeju will see more than 30 centimeters of snowfall into tomorrow night. Afternoon highs will be 2 to 3 degrees lower today, so topping out at just minus 9. Gwangju, Daegu at minus 2 degrees. Stay well bundled up today. Then brace for an icy cold Christmas weekend under sunny skies, but the final week of 2022 should not be as cold as this week. With that, here's a look at the weather conditions around the globe.
And that wraps up today's New Day at Arirang. We'll be back next week for our Monday's edition at the same time. Have a good one and take care.
동백섬에